Okay. Oh. He is? Okay, great.
How's everyone doing today?
And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we have the roll call, please?
Dave Amspoker,
Present.
Tom Beller,
Present.
Paul Gaines,
Present.
Tim Gerlach,
Here.
Brandon Laumeister,
Here.
James Lorimer,
Here.
John Stutzman,
Here.
and we have a quorum.
Very well. We have all reviewed the minutes to the last meeting, I hope. And if so, are there any changes or corrections? Appearing to be none. We'll call for acceptance of the minutes. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from last meeting as presented.
I second it.
Been moved and seconded that we accept the minutes. All in favor, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain. I wasn't here.
We have one abstention. Do we have any information from people that want to address the commission from the public? Were you contacted at all, Jamie? Thank you, Janie. Then we'll move on to new business, which is the election of officers for the oncoming year for chairman and vice chairman. Let's do vice chairman first. Are there any nominations for vice chairman? I'm going to nominate Paul Gaines. Are there any other nominations? Okay, all in favor of Paul Gaines being the vice chairman, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I think it's unanimous. Now we need somebody to nominate chair for the chairman.
I'll nominate Dave Amspoker.
Are there any other nominations for chairman?
Could people volunteer if they wanted to?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just making
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
people know that.
Anybody can, anybody wants to jump in, boy,
Okay.
that's fine with me. All in favor of Dave Amspoker being the chairman for another year, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Well, that solves that problem, thank you. We move to terminal building fencing. Several years ago, we tore down the cyclone, or the, what I call chain link fence. And apparently, there's been a little problem with people wandering onto the ramp. And I think somebody would like to address the fencing issue.
Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. As you are aware, a while back, the airport had a actual cyclone or wire mesh fence on the backside delineating the terminal backyard property from the ramp Obviously, it was pretty, how could we say, non-pleasant to the eye, did not look welcoming whenever you enter the airport, especially coming into the terminal building. And even from the terminal building, looking out onto the ramp, it was not exactly the most appealing. So recently, we just redid the landscaping on the back side of the airport terminal building. Looks a lot better than it was, far better in my opinion. I know Ms. Curtis over here will be speaking about that. But in the meantime, we're sitting back going, well, we do have a little bit of an issue where we don't have some type of barrier that can keep honest people honest. Say, once you cross this, you're possibly in a aircraft operations area. So what staff is seeking advice and recommendation from the commission is possibly putting in a wrought iron fence and gates about 3 feet tall to where it's not, all the way up above where it blocks people's views. It's kind of subtle, goes in with a theme over there. And just when people are touring landscaping, they'll know once they cross this point or this gate, they're going to be in an aircraft operations area. And just provides one little extra saying, hey, beyond this, it may be unsafe for you. Try to push that marking between your average visitor side from your pilot side of the house.
Are you gonna have a sign on the fence as well?
Yes, Chair. We are going to put up a sign that says you're entering aircraft operations area.
Is the gate gonna be spring-loaded, shuts automatically?
Yes, sir.
Except during winds like we had over the weekend.
Well, we're going to put some type of little locking mechanism.
This sign, does it have to be some big, like, it has to get people's attention, but does it have to be something that's really terrible looking, or can it be kind of nice? I don't know what.
It's a yellow caution sign that's going to take up approximately just the gate area.
Okay.
In that one spot with black saying that, hey, you're entering an aircraft operations area. But also keep in mind, we are aware from the pilot side, we want them to be aware of that. So we're going to be putting some type of red reflectors on the pilot side when they come in to say, hey, with their lights at night, this is a barrier that's coming up in front of you.
Are there currently lights up there, like street lights?
Yes, sir.
Light the area at night?
Yes, sir. But from what I've heard in the past, we've had some people that really fully did not pay attention to those lights and pulled the aircraft up onto the actual lawn surface.
That happened recently?
I heard that it possibly happened before I got here.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where they put in those smaller little red reflective, I want to say post up, about 3 of them, 4 of them.
Doug, is 3 feet gonna be tall enough?
It's really designed to just be a little bit of a barrier to tell people that, hey, beyond this point.
People pay attention to that?
For the most part, so far, it has been pretty good. One thing that kind of brought this to our attention was our restaurant, because in the past, our restaurant told people don't pass the sidewalk in that area. And now, since that sidewalk's gone, they kind of said, we don't have something to instruct people not to go past that spot. We have yet to really see anybody truly walking out of the terminal building, walking around on the ramp. Most of the time, it's been pilots that we've seen and we've stopped. But it's just going to be one smaller barrier to where we kind of put that up there to keep honest people honest.
To be fair, we're not really intending, nor does the FAA require that we keep people off the ramp, since we're not a commercial operation. Is that correct?
That is true, and that's actually TSA under 1542.
Yeah.
Due to the fact we're no longer a commercial airport, those regulations do not apply to the Kingman Municipal Airport.
Go ahead.
But still, we want to have something there to dissuade them from just running rampant on the airport.
Yes, sir. We're still going to have the gate on the other side that goes along the terminal building, so when the restaurant closes, only people that are able to access that area will be pilots and individuals that work on the airport. So we're still going to have that primary gate, but we're going to install that secondary gate just as an additional protection measure.
So at some point, I'm sure we'll have some kind of commercial operation, who knows how far down the road, but is there a regulation on height-wise and fence-wise if there is a commercial operation? At that point, will have to be changed out?
If there is one, then it will have to go up to approximately 6 feet with 3 strands of barbed wire for a total of around 7 to 8 feet.
Okay. So look more like a real security area at that point. We can't get around that, I guess.
And this right now, from the estimates that we've received, has been anywhere between $9,000 and $10,000, so it's not going to be too much.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions regarding the fence? Is this something that we think is a good idea? And if so, we would,
I had recommended something like this back when we did away with the fence. I thought there should have been something along the sidewalk to let people know exactly what this fence is being proposed for. So I'm completely fine with this myself.
would you like to make a motion for that, Mr. Gerlach?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we put in the approximately 3-foot high barrier with a gate and a sign that lets people know they're entering an aircraft operating area.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we recommend this to put in the fence.
Give a brief I have another quick question.
Sure.
Do you know when it might be installed by chance if we make this? Does this have to go to council? This is a below budget item for council.
Yes, sir, this is below $50,000. We're
Okay.
going to be moving on it relatively fast.
Okay.
Within the next week or so, we're going to open up those conversations to get that moving.
Okay.
All in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the airport website. In conversation with Manager Breckenridge, I have suggested that we try to get the commission a little more involved in some of the activities at the airport, and he has come up with the idea that we would have a couple volunteers from the commission to work on a website with city staff. I think it's a good idea that they have some involvement from our commission. So we discussed this, and we thought a four-member board, I believe, is what we came up with, wasn't it? A four-member
No,
crew?
it's going to be 2 individuals. We're looking for 2 volunteers.
Right. 2
with-
volunteers from the commission with 2 volunteers from city staff.
Yeah, well, city staff's going to have to be working on this anyways. A little bit of background. We have recognized the need to update our airport website. Airport website, one area that I have noticed is that we're seeing some from individuals saying, hey, we need a little bit more updated information. From individuals that are looking for businesses on the airport with either procurement of some of our stored aircraft or what we have out there. The phone calls are coming directly to me in economic development, which is already telling us that, hey, we have a gap somewhere in there. In the same time, we're recognizing what is the true purpose of the airport website. One purpose is to make it easier for pilots to find the information that they're looking for on the airport. Another one is to promote the airport as a viable asset to the community that can enhance their business. Also to allow the community to know what events are going on, and to make it overall very easy for individuals that are outside of aviation to navigate the website and include and get the history of the airport. So what was happening is that we we're going to go through, we already mentioned this to our IT department, we're going to be asking for training on how our staff, the airport staff itself, can update the website. In the meantime, we're kind of figuring that having a commissioner with one definitely with the aviation side, and then one maybe with a little bit, not so much aviation, but looking at it from a business perspective, or an average citizen could assist us with rearranging, updating, and making this overall much easier, much more of a pleasant experience to navigate the website. So we will be, once we learn this, once we actually learn how to update the website through this formalized training, then we're going to start engaging with those 2 volunteer commissioners to say, hey, let's sit down, let's develop a layout, let's perfect the actual layout, so when somebody gets onto the airport website, they don't see 23 tabs up there. They know exactly where to go to if they're looking for the information that they're seeking.
I'm glad that this was something that was in here, because I actually, when I first started this commission, went to the airport's website and thought it was a little clunky. And I had thought about ideas and things to kind of make it more modern, and I do have experience with web development, so
Would you like to be on that commission? Or that-
I am
not-
volunteering
I'm
myself, if
saying
that's
it's not a
okay.
commission, sorry. Would you like to be volunteering on that?
I would.
project? Good. That's one.
That's one.
Do we have a pilot that is interested in being on that?
I have a question for Tim. Tim, since we get together for other reasons on the weekends for the museum and whatnot, would you like to kind of go over this maybe soon and just have, at least start spitting out some ideas to each other and taking some notes to move in this direction?
Sure, I don't have any objection to that. I was involved back in the early development of the website as well.
And this would be more, like for a transient pilot, they were coming in, they want the information they might want to know, like ground transportation, the restaurant or access, just anything that they'd want to know. If we were flying into this airport without knowing anything about it, stuff that we would need.
Yes, sir. Or also, if you have somebody coming in, they want to see what type of businesses are on the airfield.
Okay.
At this present time, if you go to our business website, it just has the name of the company and that's it.
Okay.
So one thought process may be putting the company's name up there, logo, along with the map, so you actually see where they're located at.
So aviation services, that kind of thing. Okay.
Yes, sir. That's one idea that we're kind of thinking of, so we could promote our services that are currently located at the airport.
Okay.
Well, since we only have a meeting every 3 months, can we have one of you decide to do this?
Well, I think that we could, probably all 3 of us would get together, or at some point, or at least through email, and talk about maybe physically getting together outside of.
Just FYI, you can't do 3 emails back and forth because that may be considered a quorum action.
Even if it's fewer than,
So it's under
Majority?
4.
Is it, I think, is it 4? It's 3? Yeah.
4
4's
is
a
the
quorum, so
quorum.
3's, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we just have 2 people just speaking on.
Yeah.
on it, so-
okay, sure.
And 2 people meeting with the 2 people from staff.
Yes,
So,
it may be more than just 2 people with staff, because we may be dragging IT into this, because we are using the same platform, which is Granicus, that the city's using, and they may know a little bit more into it than we do, where if we're trying to finesse the software to do something, they may say, here's how you do it, or no, the software will not allow you to do it.
Do you anticipate these meetings would be in person, and if so, would they be at the administration at the airport?
It will be in person at the airport admin
Okay.
building.
and correct me if I'm wrong, if the people on this committee, for lack of a better term, decide what they want, can't you just tell IT, this is what we want, do it, or figure it out?
No, IT lets, and honest with you, will rather learn how to do it, in case that there needs to be some adjustments in the future, because there will be. The airport is gonna grow. There could be something where we start hearing from commissioners or some of our local pilots or communities say, hey, I wish there was something a little bit easier to get to this. Or when we start getting the phone calls from people who are looking for certain businesses, we could sit back and say, okay, why were you not able to find one of our aircraft storage companies, or why were you unable to find our aircraft paint shop? And they may say, well, here's reason why we went to the website, this kind of a hookup. Do you think you can make a change on that? So, and this is one of those items where we're kind of looking at working with those commissioners with the next 6 months or so, those 2 volunteers, and then come back to the commission with what we've worked on.
And I'm guessing you would, because you were mentioning this before, you field a lot of phone calls, so you probably have a book of notes on what may need to be on the website also, or as you're going along and adding stuff, or there's been more than just one occasional phone call in a certain area, you'll think it might be important to have a button or a link for that topic, I suppose. More so than we would get, because we don't get phone calls for.
Yes, sir. A lot of it's regarding the businesses.
Yeah, okay.
Other areas where we've kind of noticed has been with our with individuals saying, hey, what does your FBO offer? So we got to figure out a way how to get our FBO. That's another business aspect. Another one is we want to really support the history of the airport, and we're going back through our historic section of the airport. We're going, we need to make this a little bit more, figure out how to make it a little bit upfront, easier to see, to where citizens or people come on board, tourists, and say, okay, what's the history of Kingman Airport, and actually see that, maybe display it a little bit better, figure out a way how to improve upon it.
Okay.
What's the website?
It's the Kingman Airport
Kingman Airport?
website.
Because I'd like to look at that and see if there's any advice I might be able to get to Kingman.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't looked at it in a long time, so I'm guilty of not participating as a pilot looking at it. So.
I don't want to say anything about one of our local businesses, but they're unrelated to the airport. When we were shifting through it, we saw purchasing furniture on the airport website through one of our business sections, and we're going, oh, that's completely unrelated. I mean, we want to support businesses throughout the community, but we need to keep it to the airport.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Very well. Well, would you mind having 3 commissioners?
Or do you know if we're allowed to make the adjustment to the, okay. Yes, it will be, we'll
Okay,
take 3.
so then we'll count on,
Tom, were you wanting to say something too? It sounded like you were wanting to say something earlier on about it. Okay.
okay. So we have 3 with Tim, Paul, and Brandon.
Can you make that a motion, sir?
That'd be nice. Anybody want to make a motion?
Go ahead.
Motion to form a little subcommittee on
Don't say subcommittee, let's say volunteer group.
volunteer group, okay? To help the website development. To have 3 people on that.
Do you want to name the 3 in your motion?
Brandon, Tim, and
Paul.
Paul.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we have 3 members of our commission on the volunteer group to assist with the creation of a website for the airport on the internet, and it's been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yes.
So I'm sorry, I do have one last question. It's not going to impact this, but is this, and I know it says the airport website, but is this the airport and industrial park, or is this strictly just for the airport?
This is the airport. We do have a link that goes into choosekingman.gov that does a little bit more focusing on the industrial park, because that has a lot of more information that helps businesses determine if or basically tells businesses, hey, Kingman will be a great place for you.
Thank you.
I still think it'd be good to have, obviously, your inputs if you've been involved with probably ease of use and things like that, and what's up to date now with, things always change, that would be,
Yeah.
even though you're not a pilot, I think you could be really helpful.
Well, thanks.
With
I hope I can be really helpful with
Yeah.
this too. So
May I just say, we're trying to look for somebody that's also outside of the pilot community that could take a look at that from your average citizen standpoint.
So you're volunteered as the average citizen.
if you honestly want to know my philosophy, it's the simpler the better.
Yeah.
The less clicks that you have to make to get to something, the easier it is to navigate. It just makes life a lot easier for everyone.
You already have my support on that one.
And the next item on the agenda is, we have a letter that has been created. If you've heard the news lately, the FAA has put somewhat of a roadblock in front of the development of the extra 1,800 acres. And I know that City Council has sent a letter, or is in the process of sending a letter, to our congressman and to our two senators. When I talked with Manager Breckenridge, we thought it would be a good idea for the commission to send a letter to those three individuals as well. He's drafted the letter, and if you want to tell us all about the letter, and then we can see if this is something that we think we should do.
Okay, this is a request of Chairman Dave Amspoker through voicing through, if the commission wishes to, for a letter going out to senators and representatives expressing the need for the release of the 755 acres of land. Forgive me, I know I have your name and everything here. It's just a form letter in that location, so we can insert the information in the future and get those letters out. But the letter, you got to forgive me, it's pretty lengthy. The letter states as a dedicated member of Congress, we're requesting your support and commitment to the economic prosperity of the city of Kingman and the greater Kingman area. Our right to express our collective support for the land release of 755 acres at the Kingman Municipal Airport from federal obligations to facilitate the expansion of the Kingman Airport Industrial Park, and request that you be a voice for our endeavor. Representing the airport and the Industrial Park Advisory Commission, I speak on behalf of our commission in advocating for this crucial endeavor. Forgive me, I've been reading this for about 20, 30, 40 times when we were drafting it up. The 2021 Airport Master Plan for the Kingman Municipal Airport, approved by the Federal Aviation Administration, underscores the significance and release of this property from all federal obligations to pave the way for the expansion of the existing industrial park. The envisioned release of the land is poised to attract light and heavy industries as well as ancillary businesses, which form the bedrock of our local community. This expansion of the industrial park through this land release will not only augment the economic landscape, but also foster the continuous growth of our vibrancy of our community. Moreover, the proceeds granted from these sales of the released land will be channeled into funding vital airport capital projects, as well as supporting ongoing operations and maintenance activities at the Kingman Municipal Airport. This is a symbiotic relationship between the airport and the businesses situated on the released land. Will not only bolster aviation-related needs, but also spur mutually beneficial growth.
And as you may or may not know, the FAA has said that they're not going to release that land until such time as the interstate, which one is it?
What the FAA wants to do is finish with the land release of Rancho Santa Fe Parkway.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, the Parkway on Rancho Santa Fe.
He still has a little bit more to go.
But we have a little bit more to go.
Yeah.
In closing,
Sorry.
In closing, to extend my heartful, let me zoom this in. My glasses are not exactly the best. Gratitude for considering your sincere endorsement of this pivotal project, which is poised to underpin the prosperity of our beloved community. I am optimistic that you will lend your support to this land release and join us in our vision for perpetual advancement of the city of Kingman and its neighboring communities. Thank you for your unwavering dedication to our community's well-being.
Well read, or well.
I want to say well read.
Is this, I mean, it's obvious to us, but is this enough of a call out for them to reach out to the FAA in this? Maybe, yeah,
I can help with that one.
yeah,
Because of Rancho Santa Fe and their lacking of leasing land that we need to build a road out to the airport, I believe the Dorn Group has a meeting set up with Mayor Watkins and Vice Mayor Emily to voice their concerns on getting off their tough
Mhm.
and getting course because it's been lagging. So that is in the process.
okay.
So I was just looking for the date that was actually going to happen. I couldn't find it right now. But I will bring that up to them to include the airport as well as
One of the, we all know the importance of this whole project. It's all works together. But an important piece of information that a lot of people don't know is there's one entrance in and out of the industrial park where you have to go under a railroad bridge, which has a lot of trains on it every single day, and that could be a problem. And it's there, the industrial park is growing, and plus it's really I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but it's like we got to make this happen
as
somehow.
soon as I leave here, I'm going to make a phone call, make sure that happens.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to wait on the date. I know it's coming close, probably in the next week or two that this is happening, but it's all tight.
Yeah.
Councilmember Savage, it is going to be on March 20th.
Okay.
Has council tried to garner the support of Congressman Gosar?
Yes.
Is he's on board? Okay.
How about our two senators? Do we know what their position is?
Senator Kelly's been here a few times, and
Yes.
he flew himself.
Senator Kelly's,
Yeah.
Senator Kelly's involved in this. Gosar's involved in it.
Cinema, you don't know.
Cinema?
Cinema, I don't know.
Yeah. Actually, and Senator Kelly flew himself up, actually, and flew himself back to wherever he lives in southern Arizona for a meeting up here area. So it was fun to see him flying in himself, by himself. So he's obviously aviation oriented and understands this kind of thing. So
That's definitely in behooves what we are trying to do here. Get off the butt.
is this gonna? This can't hurt, I assume, to
No.
come up with this. And
No.
okay. Would this be signed by everybody? We put our signatures below one letter, kind of thing, or how are we gonna structure this?
This is going to be signed by the chair,
Okay.
Chair M. Spoker,
Okay.
and it'll go out on the entire commission's behalf.
Okay.
As well as the city.
Okay.
So do we have a motion?
I'm going to make a motion to have this done with the letter to the congressman or congresswoman or whoever it's going to be addressed to.
Been moved and seconded that we send this letter out. I was going to say that it's kind of flowery, but if it has the results that we're looking for, great. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And for the commission, just to let you know, writing this letter was a team effort. I have to give thanks to Ms. Platt and then also Ms. Curtis over here with assisting.
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay, let's move on to reports.
Chair Amspoker, I was wondering if the commission doesn't mind if Ms. Curtis could go first because one of her items is related to one of the action items.
I don't have a problem with it. Does anybody?
Nope.
Fine.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, Council Member. First of all, we have a couple projects that we've been working on. One of those is Project Organic, and it's moving forward. Right now, they are waiting for the county to do a review of the zoning, to do an overlay on the current zoning that's there. Because of the type of company that they are requiring it, even though it doesn't really suit that. They're coming in as an organic fertilizer company. None of their products are caustic or contaminate anything. They are all it's almost like a protein shake for plants that they're making. So, but because they're a fertilizer company, they were required to do the zoning. So they're working on that. That should be approved and out to the Board of Supervisors on their meeting on April 1st. Then we should be looking at them to move forward for an RFP and possible purchase of the piece of property out there.
How many acres is that? Do you know?
It's 8.92.
Okay.
Plus another little section of 1.17.
So I have a question too. With the fertilizer companies, I'm not exactly sure like safety on some of that stuff. When you say it's non-caustic, toxic stuff like that, this is not one of those companies we've seen like in Texas or in other places
Nope.
where they've had issues and things have gone, kind of wrong.
No. In fact, I can share a story with you some other time about what they did, but they did a demonstration for the fire department with their product, and they torched it at 2,000 degrees, and it kind of melted it, but it never caught on fire.
Water.
It's reclaimed, all of it, every ounce of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Another company that's coming to the industrial park is Crown Equipment. They manufacture forklifts, and they are taking over Big Industrial, and they are going to be moving in there and starting to bring the building up to what they need to be able to manufacture these parts starting April 1st.
This is
the Guardian building?
Yes.
okay. I was going to say that or the South Wires, the Guardian fiberglass building.
Yes.
Okay. Old.
How many employees do they expect to have?
You know what? We have talked to them on numerous occasions. Since this is not one of the deals that we have been totally 100% involved in, we do not have an exact number on that.
Do we have an approximate?
No, we don't. I have asked. So I apologize for that. We have asked them for those numbers, but we haven't received them at this point in time. They're only releasing certain information.
They're gonna take over the whole building.
Yes, they are. So, okay, so there is something here that I would like to share with you guys. Oops. Okay, so you guys, I know that you wanted to have a say in the airport terminal landscaping, and I'm going to apologize right up front that we did not come to you before we did this. So So the catalyst for all this was that work throughout the city was focused on making everything more beautiful in all of our entry points. So not only that was going on, but they had initiated some cleanup of all the weeds, trying to get everything cleaned up within the city. Super Bowl was approaching. We were contacted by the FAA, and there was approximately 63 flights that were scheduled to land at our airport. With that in mind, we were given directive by the city manager to get the work completed as soon as possible. So time was of the essence, so we sent out requests to 3 different landscapers. We received their bids, and we selected Kingman Landscaping, and they were awarded the contract. So I would like to show you a few of the pictures. Before and after, we have kind of the same view. And before and after. Before and after. Some more before and after. One more. Also on this one, I'd like to point out that what they did in front of the monument is they put a flat rock out there so that people could walk up there, look at it, maybe sit down and talk about it or have a moment. And so we set it up so that it was something that could be an experience. And another view of it. And finally, the view from the cafe looking back out. We hope that you guys will make it out there and enjoy the view as well.
I'm gonna miss the gopher.
Believe it or not, they're still showing up.
They are.
Yes. The week after, we had one little gopher that decided that it was his job to come out there and
It looks
let
very
us
nice.
know.
I've looked at it.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah, and it looks better than the pictures. The pictures don't show, of course, the depth and the height, and it's more interesting looking than these pictures. It looks good on the photographs, but it looks better than it does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It does
It-
focus everybody to go in that smaller walkway
Mhm.
with the gate and the wrought iron fence that will solve that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
that-
removed the sidewalk that was going across, and we removed the sidewalk that went down from the side of the terminal building all the way to there so that we filtered everybody through on the one sidewalk.
And I think with the wrought iron fence, and it'll look nice there.
Very much
With that.
so. And right now you can't tell, but the section that's closest where the cypress tree is, that section right there has some flowers that were put in there to kind of give a little bit more aesthetics for the people who are sitting in the cafe sitting area.
And
Thank you. It was a group effort, just saying.
I'm just hoping a lot of the plants and stuff that were put in were more of the stuff that's for this area and drought tolerant.
They all were, yes. That was in our bid request. We actually were able to remove all the irrigation that was out there because some of it was cracked, it wasn't functioning correctly, and everything that's there is not required or needing any water other
That's
than what
awesome.
we have. Okay, any other questions about that?
I have a question.
Sure.
Is there some way we can get someone to really kind of semi-properly resurrect the rose bushes out there, or not?
They are gone.
Ancient rose.
I apologize, but those were removed.
Oh, they were, okay. Well, I guess the answer is no.
Yes.
So, okay, just want to make sure.
Are the rocks, I'm assuming those are kind of a reddish rock,
Mm-hmm.
are they glued down?
Nope.
So we're gonna have, whenever there's little kids running around out there, we're gonna have somebody that goes out and picks all the red rocks up and puts them back where they belong?
That would be addressed by maintenance. And I believe that that will be taken care of and not a problem.
Well, I hope you're right.
Any other questions? And the fence will help too.
Yeah.
Any
Oh,
other questions?
The fence will keep them in where the rocks are.
All right. Right? Oops, you can't say that.
I'll second that.
So, next thing on my list is our I-40 Tradeport Corridor. As you know, we were awarded that designation. We're moving back through it. We've been meeting with the consultants, and that has, we're working on the list of projects, but basically, their first focus is the truck mobility complex and getting the road out to the industrial park. So, in addition to that, they recently had a trip out to the Port of Los Angeles so they could see how all of these items start out and how they get to Kingman, either by truck or rail, and what that looks like and how the Port of Los Angeles is organized and how the freight moves through there. So it was a very interesting trip. Our Vice Mayor Samily went, and Superintendent for District 1, Travis Lingenfelter, went, along with our Economic Development Director. They felt, all three of them felt that it was very, very informative and very impressive from what they saw. Right now, we just finished up a grant with a RAISE grant through the I-40 Tradeport Corridor Coalition. It was due February 28th. It went out on time, and we garnered a lot of letters of support from all the way from our Senator Kelly, Senator Sinema, Congressman Gosser, and then just down through different state governments and down to local.
How much was the grant for?
The grant is, they're filed for $25 million, and this is to actually start or finish, in our case, because our area has already worked with some master plan development for that land release. It's not all going to the truck mobility, but with that, some of the items that have been engineered for Rancho Santa Fe Parkway, this would be to complete all of those plans and move on to the structural engineering portion of it. The money, the $25 million, is to go between the 3 hubs. It's not just for our hub, plus some of it's going to be for lobbying, because we have another grant that's going to be coming up that we want to make sure that we get, because this one's a high dollar grant. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But that's kind of where we are on those 2 things. Do you have any questions about that portion so far?
The port. So does this put a higher priority on like transportation infrastructure related projects like road improvements, widenings, and those kinds of items that would come into the industrial park and around it?
So if you're asking me can you be more specific about what you're asking me?
So like for example, I know a lot of people this isn't necessarily a part of what I'm kind of asking, but it is part of it in a way, is, for example, the I-40 has got some really bad sections of the roadway. And what I was wondering is if being designated as the trade port corridor, if it puts more of an emphasis or a priority on getting the roads either widened to accommodate the increased traffic, or to upgrade and or maintain the existing stretches of that roadway.
So to answer your question, most all of that falls on ADOT, Arizona Department of Transportation. And with that in mind, I was recently in a meeting with them, and those are already, the resurfacing and repaving is already on their schedule. So I know that that will be happening soon. You can find all the details on their website of what's chronicled out there for the next year, including, if you really want to know, the 93 coming in, the connection to the 40. It was out for bids. It finished at the end of February. The engineers are gonna review all the bids and decide who the winning bidder will be, and they expect to start groundbreaking on that by the summer.
Groundbreaking by when? Wait,
By the summer.
let's-
Good.
Okay, so we just recently submitted a rural business development grant to accommodate some of the things that are happening here. We are growing as a community. With that, our economic development strategies need to grow and accommodate for that and take into consideration the I-40 Trade Port Corridor. So along with that, we put in there the feasibility study that the council has asked for, and we have submitted that grant. We will know somewhere between May and September who got awarded these things, the grant awards. We did ask for $85,000 on that to get these two items taken care of, and it requires a matching of 20% from the city. So the RAISE grant, I told you about. The next grant that we're going to be going for is a little bit different. It's called the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. Okay, so this grant is actually going to be submitted on behalf of the city of Kingman, the city of Winslow, the state of New Mexico, the state of Texas, and the state of Oklahoma. There are, from what I understand, $10 billion worth of funds out there to go around. Because our project is a green energy fueling project, it makes it a little bit more appealing to the committees that allocate these funds and who the United States entities that are putting out the funds, the NOFOs, the grants. And with that in mind, we are going to be filing for $500 million on that. We expect to be able to use that as part of the funds, most of the funds, to do the truck mobility and any other infrastructure as needed. And with that in mind, if we have some shortfalls, it is my understanding, I can't quote this for sure, but it was my understanding that we have private investors that are standing there waiting to finish that off.
Would there be matching funds required on that?
No.
And what did you say the matching funds were on the rural business development?
20%?
20%.
Any other questions about that?
When did you say they're planning on?
Submitting on the RAISE grant that we already did, or the
A new one?
I don't even know what the deadline is. It is here within the next 60 days. I can research that for you and get the answer to you.
Yeah, please do. I want to know if that will have influence with the FAA and what we need to do to go forward.
Yeah, and just to be aware, there's going to be more details and information coming to the city council here soon as we have all of it. This is just broad strokes, okay?
What do the private investors get out of it if there is a shortfall and they have to chip in?
I'm not sure.
So usually there's some kind of return on investment, so I was just curious what that was.
We're in the process of talking about all those things, and the development agreement has not been written up. Once it is, we will be passing it off to the city council to review and approve. Anything else? Okay, one more grant. So, as you guys know, we filed for the ESP Economic Strengths Program grant last year to pave Transport Way and Government Way, and we did not get the grant. We are going to be applying for that again, and hopefully this year we will be able to secure those funds to pave those 2 streets. We have sought out some direction of how we could improve it. You know, why didn't we get the grant? What could we do to improve it? So we're working on those items so that we can maximize our application.
Along those lines, do they give you reasons why you're declining?
I believe that they just, let me kind of sort of back up a little bit. The previous year, we did receive funds, and those funds went to pave portions of Government Way, Finance Way.
Was that the one that was really in terrible shape, that was almost a dirt road?
Mhm.
That's, of course, brand new now, looking at,
Yeah.
okay.
And so when we did that, we took most of their funding. Last year, when they did announce the awards, there was somewhere between 6 and 8 smaller awards that were passed out. So we were under the impression that that was the reason that we did not get it.
Were these funds coming from the state or the federal government?
Arizona Commerce Authority.
Arizona, okay.
So it was coming through the state.
Because it's right through the industrial park, therefore commerce, I'm guessing that's what the whole target
Yes,
is, okay.
yes.
Are you expecting that these grants are going to be divvied up the same way again this year as well?
We have no idea what goes on in their minds. That's why we have put out an email to get a little bit of input how we could better qualify or make our application a little stronger. We have an excellent grant writer here in the city who works diligently on writing these grants, and she does a fabulous job. She's super easy to work with, and as we talk to her and give her input, she responds very, very well to making sure that she is very inclusive of any information that we need to put in there.
And did you say when the due date of the grant, or you already applied for it? Or
No, the ESP grants are due, they need to be submitted before April 20th.
okay.
And we'll find out those funds somewhere around August, September. Any other questions?
Yeah, can we back up to the first grant for I-40? What was the matching funds on that?
The RAISE grant that they sent out,
Yeah,
there are no matching
No
funds on
matching.
that either.
I like the ones that are no matching funds.
Yeah, me too. Anything else? Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioner, here's the airport report for March 4th, 2024. We hired a new staff member, Tracy Wartenberger. She is now our leasing and events coordinator for the airport. One thing that we've seen, and that we went back, we have around almost 90 agreements throughout the airport. Airport is moving forward with a lot of areas, and we needed somebody to come in and really, how can we say, come in, take a look at our leases. We're looking for standardization. We're looking for individuals or somebody to follow up with lease requirements placed on tenants. We are also looking at individuals to find ways to better improve some of the facilities for our tenants, and overall be an individual that our tenants, as they have any questions, concerns, or their request and follow-up, we have somebody dedicated strictly for that. So far, over the past week, she just started last week, She's already found some items in there that we were trying to look for in the past. She got into the older files and went through it and found out that we may have an additional 1.67 acres of property that we once thought was a part of the county. But by her going through there, we're just doing some last minute verification. It may not be a part of the county, so that will be one additional parcel that we can market out there. We are going through, since she's kind of new at the airport leasing side, we're also going through and teaching her a little bit about the FAA regulations. She is also getting inundated with books and some paperwork, and she's kind of taken this one on, and she's doing a fantastic job. And we're hoping that that overall improves our, how can we say, our customer response, and also get a little bit more, how can we say, standardization across the board, instead of everybody's leasing saying a little bit different ideas, and also being a little bit more responsive to our tenants when they come in saying that they need something. On the other hand, the airport, back over the summer, we've had a company, a developer, that approached us, and they were looking at possibly developing mass areas of the airport, over 300 acres. So over the past several months, we've been in conversation with this company. They explained a little bit of what they're looking at doing. They explained what their ultimate goal is. They even talked to us a little bit about what they have done at another airport in the Phoenix area. So we've been working with them, and we are now looking at being potentially leasing over 336 acres for hangar development, additional ancillary aviation services, including improved storage areas, and bringing in other businesses. And one thing that we did state through this project, that we stated that we are also looking at them working with our existing tenants to see if there's a way they could fulfill their needs. With that being said, when they approached us and we said, okay, let's start moving forward, they sent us a letter of intent. We were discussing how to approach this. Under state law, you have to do an RFP process, a request for proposal. So the highest bidder comes back, that's highest and best bidder comes back, that's who you have to go with. But we're looking at this and we're saying, you know what, there has to be a better way. So we started reaching out to other airports that have done very similar mass developments. And one airport that we kind of zeroed in on was Mesa Gateway Airport down in Phoenix. What they did was they did a two-step process. The first step is a request for qualifications. And that's what you put out there to verify that the developers that potentially will bid in the future, that they're actually qualified, that they have the experience, that they have the backing, capabilities, and understandings to take on such a large project. And then those offers that go through that first litmus test get invited to the second phase, which will be the request for proposal phase. And that will be the phase when we start going based upon the amount of revenue that the airport gets. So we're going to be doing this a two-phase project. We're anticipating the RFQ to be published this Wednesday. It's going to run all the way till April the 11th. Then we're going to have a scoring committee that comes in and reviews the solicitations of qualifications and select up to 5 qualified people or teams. And after that, they'll be invited to the next phase, which will come out a little over a month afterwards. We're targeting June 3rd to have the RFP phase. With that being said, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to actually develop the airport with how could I say, better infrastructure. They have proposed hangar sizes ranging from 30,000 square feet to possibly several 100,000 square feet. But that being said, since we don't have the dotted line signed, nothing is a guaranteed yet. So we're stalling this process to actually weed it out, figure out if it's true or not, then go through an RFP phase. With that RFP phase, then we're going to really find out if the rubber meets the road on this. I know a lot of people are expressing concerns with taking on such a large project. So this is where we looked at people that have completed these similar activities in the past. One area that we're going to focus on is doing a phasing, whichever company actually is awarded this. One person for the RFQ was allowed to see if there's any other developer out there. Competition is great. More competition, the better quality of development that we're going to get. So with that, we're looking at eyeing a phasing plan to where when whoever gets it, we phase it out to where we say, hey, this many, anywhere from 50 to 100 acres, you must develop by this time frame. Then we'll unlock the next phase. And then when you finish developing that phase, then we'll unlock another phase. And that prevents the entire property from being completely tied down, because the last thing we want is somebody building spotty hangars here and there and then unable to meet the rest of their obligations, and then they're just taking over massive swaths of property. But total, we're looking at around approximately 336 acres. They have demonstrated or request for the parcel just north of the FBO. They have requested the parcel right next to the old museum. They said they'd like to build a hangar there. And they're looking at developing this entire area and possibly installing new taxiways in the future in that area, new ramps, and really market that area for businesses. Their focuses are maintenance, repair, and overhaul facilities. So they're going to be targeting more than just smaller facilities. They're actually targeting larger facilities for fitting regional jets and higher. And
So they're looking to develop buildings, to develop the property into usable space and then market to companies to come there and lease from them, kind of thing. That's what we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How does this work for the city? Is that you lease the land to these people and then sublease it?
Then sublease it. Yes. This. Good question. This is actually something that's been, how can we say, relatively new in the industry. We've seen some of this occur at other airports like Reno-Stead back in, I want to say Reno-Stead, to my knowledge, was the first one. There may be some earlier ones in that made the jump off in 2007. Then we started seeing this being done in the Phoenix area through the mid-2010s and then all the way up into the 2020s. So this is something that that is still relatively new on this large of scale with these types of hangar developments.
You said a few minutes ago that this company did the same thing
At Falcon Field Airport.
at Falcon Field. Okay.
What's the typical length for the leases? Do you have like an average or any idea?
We are not allowed to, under state law, to go over 50 years. Now, if somebody's going to build a massive hangar, please keep in mind that this infrastructure reverts back to the airport at the end of the lease. So at 50 years, it becomes the airport's, and then from there, we do a facility lease.
North Las Vegas is doing 30 years.
Mhm.
Giant here.
I know one of them that we're reading was around 45 years with a 5-year, or 40 years with a 10-year extension, bumping up against the 50-year mark.
And so if we add like something between a 30 to 50-year lease, is maintenance going out there to do inspections on these facilities, or are we leaving that up to the lessor?
One discussion that we're actually looking at when we get to that actual RFP phase is our maintenance guys actually doing checkups, and then one discussion is maybe doing a building inspection every 10 years, hiring a building inspector to come out there and make sure that they're meeting, how can I say, the annual maintenance requirements for the steel, the roof, the paint, so forth.
Yeah, because it'd be horrible to have these revert to the airport in 30 years and they're incomplete, like need to be torn down and rebuilt kind of state.
Mm-hmm. So we've looked at that. We've had discussion with other airport managers on how they do that. We are going to have in their lease that given 24-hour notice, our staff has the ability to come in there, city staff has the ability to come in there, or their representative, and inspect the facilities. Because yes, we do not want to inherit our predecessors in the future to inherit a building that's going to require millions of dollars to get back up and functioning to to where you could actually have running businesses out of it. So there's many ways that we've been having discussions, from just having annual walkthroughs to even doing it to where our staff has the ability to inspect the fire extinguishers quarterly. That gives them eyes inside the building, to every 10 years of hiring a building inspector to actually go through and see if everything's being properly maintained and come back with a report to the city.
Is this a thing that shown to show how important it is that we get the land release and all that, because we have potentially this much more business that's serious about coming in here and we need an interchange and et cetera, et cetera?
And that is aviation related. It's not just outside of that.
This all has to be aviation related.
Right.
When we come up with this, we have already told the FAA that this development is quite possibly coming down the pipe. We've showed them a very similar map to this. They are aware, and due to the scale of this, I would not be surprised if they want to review the lease before anything is signed.
You said that'd be in 3 phases?
Well, that was one discussion. We're going to have to actually see when we get to the RFP phase or the actual development phase. Several things is we want to see what they exactly want to build, where they want to build it, and also timeframes of how long it's going to take them to put it up or conduct the improvements. So that will be under that actual discussion when we get to the RFP phase. And one discussion is we go to city council before that and say, here's who we're going to make the offer to. And then that's when we start really getting in. We don't have a signed contract, but we really start getting in to the actual phasing and the planning and the layout of these improvements.
So with that much property on the west or the southwest side, what do you want to say it, near my end of the airport, this would be a large cash flow positive in the direction for the airport, I guess, on a yearly or monthly, however it works, basis, which would be beneficial. Now, this yellow area, though, is over where a lot of parked jets are, so they would have to be moved, obviously.
They'll probably be working with this group.
With them, okay.
With them to address it, and I do believe that they may have reached out to some. They've asked us who some of our customers are, or who our tenants are. We've reached out. We have no confirmation of how much they've been interworking and so forth together. But one area we're discussing was ground hardening, because that's one thing that we do need out there to increase the amount of aircraft parking. One airport we spoke to, they ground hardened 50 acres, and it was $3 million. And that $3 million by itself, speaking to them, they're only expecting anywhere from 10 to 15 years lifespan on it. So just your amount of money you're going to get back and how much we need to ground harden was just through the roof. And this group appears, this one group, now there's possibly a second group in the wing. We haven't not fully confirmed that yet. That's why we kind of pump this out into RFQ style to kind of spur on that competition. If there's other people out there that's looking at the airport, that they seem to think that they could knock out that ground hardening for the storage and possibly even improving that area depending on the customer's needs. So they do have a larger airline that wants to come in. They said if the larger airline says we want lighting in that area, they said we'll probably be researching and speaking with you guys about installing lights. I can't speak a lot on this because a lot of it's hypothetical. We're not going to really truly know till we get something written down and signed.
So then another hypothetical, it's kind of a waste of time, I suppose, but if a lot of these jets do get displaced, you're saying they would work with the company and then some other additional hardening would happen. Is there room out there that the airport has that they can still use for relocating these parked jets out on the desert if they're going to be developing that?
Out there further out east. We do have some out there further out east. But a lot of these companies, when we approached them on ground hardening, none of them said they wanted to.
Okay.
Several ideas regarding leasing with this is that we not only lease it per square foot, but we also request from the developer a certain cut from the storage of each aircraft.
So just out of curiosity, how much development or what makes the change from a general aviation to the commercial use where you'd have to have, you know, as we were talking about earlier with the wrought iron fence, the changes to the security of the airport itself?
Well, we'll have to have large unscheduled aircraft, which that's what Laughlin Bullhead has right now for their casinos. The other is over 9-passenger aircraft schedule coming into Kingman. In the past, the city had essential air service in there, which is actually subsidized by the federal government. And still the airlines that conduct that have some form of say to where they turn around, they say, we're just still not producing the amount of revenue even being subsidized. So in that case, the airlines pulled out. For us, it will really, one thing is once this development comes in the industrial park and our population continues to grow, and we get that good, solid working group to further expand middle class throughout the city of Kingman, then that's when in the future we'll start really targeting the airlines and possibly bringing that back in, bringing in commercial. But we have a lot of hurdles we have to cross first before we could have, how can we say, passengers in enough seats of an aircraft for a commercial airline to actually look at Kingman and say, we feel as if we could, you know, turn a profit from operating.
Is that like a 5, 10, or a 15-year goal, or like something like that, or like how long are we looking at before that?
That is extremely difficult to say right now. The industry is radically changing, especially with advanced air mobility. There are several companies out there that are looking at electrical vertical takeoff aircraft to target rural communities, to where you could go out there basically like a taxi, say, hey, we want a air taxi to take me, my wife, and my 2 kids, vice versa, over from Kingman to Harry Reid International Airport on this day at this time. That is looking more and more, and that is progressing very, very quickly. That may be the quickest and future market for the city, but those people that are making those aircraft right now, they're still undergoing FAA flight test. Some of them, they only have around 150-mile range. There's some others that will go up to 300 miles. So we are keeping an eye on them. We're kind of keeping track, reaching out to them, just seeing what the average status is, because that could be something that could fit that need for our population a lot sooner than getting an airline in here.
And there's some major airlines that are investing in those too right now. They're putting money backing some of these companies. But I think the key, Commissioner Laumeister, with you is it's scheduled. It's a scheduled service. That's what means that you have to have more security out there. Because you can charter a jet right now that holds 20 people and have our current security. That's just a one-time charter or whenever. But if it's scheduled service, then that's when the security steps up, right? Am I correct about that?
That's when
Okay.
we'll have to reapply for a Part 139, and then we'll also have to go through TSA, meet their regulations too.
Back when we did have commercial service, they were averaging 1.5 persons per flight. And they just couldn't make the money that they needed to on that. And if they had 3 people on a flight, then they had another flight that had nobody on it. So,
But before that, there was Mesa. They actually did fairly well for some reason between Kingman and Phoenix, I believe. This is a number of years ago, right before I was here, I think. And they did okay, I think, but they shut down, so.
for a while.
And one little minor thing about this is it's also due to our location too. We're not too far from Las Vegas. And you're just hour-and-a-half drive. So if you imagine somebody paying for all the fuel and additional resources to fly up to, let's say, Las Vegas, spend all that additional funds when they could have driven up there just about almost the same amount of time. If you think about coming to our airport, waiting, going through TSA, baggage screening, so forth, that's a bigger challenge. And what you have to see is for a lot of those airports that kind of operate within 2-3 hours from a large airport like that, they have to have a very significant size population.
Currently, there are several, at least one that I know of, a couple of charter companies that operate out of Vegas that do come here and pick up people.
Yeah.
And I see them on a semi-regular basis on aircraft that hold maybe 10 folks. I don't know whether if they're going back to Vegas or taking them to somewhere else, but people do hire these smaller charter aircraft to take them. Pick them up
NetJet,
and drop them off.
NetJet is one of them.
Yeah.
There's a couple. How many people did we have, or maybe you're gonna talk about that in a second. How many jets did we actually end up with on Super Bowl?
Actually, that's, I completely forgot to put that in a report until she talked about the Super Bowl. I don't have it in here, but I'll explain it. I
Okay.
will tell you this, that winter weather killed us. We were expecting around 63, speaking with the with our FBO fixed base operator, Arizona, and it got all the way up to possibly 70. Friday morning, when we had all that winter weather, that was when we were expecting a good chunk of those aircraft to come in. They could not come in. And then even into Friday afternoon, when we had that later winter weather, further exacerbated the issue. And then Saturday morning, we had additional snowfall. At that point, we went down to about anywhere from 17 to 20 aircraft, compared to the initial 63.
It hurt other local smaller airports too, didn't it? I think I heard out of Henderson, and they got a lot fewer than they wanted to, even though they have more landing capability than we do. But
Yeah, it was kind of painful. We had one aircraft that was not a part of the Super Bowl that landed here because they were doing business in one of our neighboring communities. They flew in on, let me make sure I'm getting this correct, Thursday night, and they're expecting to fly out Friday morning. Didn't happen Friday morning. So their passengers had to go back to their hotel rooms, and then when we had that break in the weather towards the afternoon, they called their passengers up. By the time the passengers got out there, the winter weather was right in their flight path, and they were worried about icing. So they had to turn their passengers back around. Then they made another shot Saturday morning, did not occur, and they were not able to get out till about Saturday afternoon. Mother Nature just played a really cruel trick on us.
Thank you.
But any other questions about the development? I just want to say is that like everything else, nothing is a done deal till we actually get a signature. We're trying to put in these safety guards to make sure that we get highest and best use for the airport. We want something that's going to be good, that the community's proud of, that reflects the community. So we're taking every single step that we can to ensure that. Taxiway Bravo project, as we said, we're waiting for the dross to get done. I asked for the dross. We're actually over 80% complete. We just had our dross meeting this morning at 10 a.m. One estimate was thrown out there, excavation possibly being complete towards the end of this month. I will say this, we are in the dirtiest, thickest part of the actual dross. They are finding trenches out there that were unexpected, that went right past where they did their boring. So it's kind of slowed everything a little bit down. It is extremely heavy. One of the contractors said they actually had to go through there and basically get something they used to break up concrete to break up the dross. So we are in the, how can we say, we're in the worst cells for the actual physical dross, but they're still pushing to possibly be done by March 20th. But in my personal opinion, it's probably going to end up stretching further out than that.
as far as the excavation goes and filling.
The excavation,
yeah.
no, just the excavation
Okay.
of the dross.
Because we're March 4th now, whatever. Do you know how many, curiosity, how many train car fulls they've hauled away? I know a
Yeah,
while back it was
It was like
250.
80, wasn't it, a while back?
Well, it was 250 a while back.
Yeah, I should have brought that paperwork with me.
I mean, it's four
Yeah.
or 500
It's
at least.
actually, I have the physical paperwork. I just completely forgot to bring it with me of the exact amount of
Yeah.
draws, because we just filed our EPA reports on how many tons we've shipped out.
Mhm.
But I'll provide that information, and I may even start putting some of that information up. I'll provide you guys the information.
It is in the hundreds, though, isn't it? Of train cars. If you don't want to
Give
say
me a
that's
little
fine.
while to sit back and jig through my, I want to provide you an answer. I'm
I
looking
know.
over at my
I never
computer.
mind
I'm
then.
going, I can grab it right now.
Yeah.
I'd like to add something, because I have to head out. Has there been any reports from the removal from the draw site of any hazardous waste, anything at all?
No, nothing that is spilled out beyond containment. They've done a very good job. They're very diligent about this. I know some commissioners came out and took a tour of the area. How could I put it? One of their goals is they mix the dross with clean dirt, and that's basically diluting it and making it to where it's not as reactive. And then when they put it in their trucks at the airport site, they bag it. They take it to the rail transloading location where they dropped it into the rail carts, and then they bag it again. So it's almost basically double bagged before it's shipped out.
If I recall,
And-
it's 6, truck burritos in a bag per train car. Isn't that correct?
Yes,
think.
it's approximately that.
Yeah.
It also depends on what's being loaded in there, because concrete and steel that's considered contaminated, they do put that in there, and that will impact how much loads they'll actually put inside of each train carts. They're targeting shipping 7 train carts out a day, because that's what the waste site could handle. So if you look at this project starting back in August, 7 a day for all the business days. Granted, as soon as the winds hit 18 miles per hour, they have to cease all operations due to gust. But I can, it's going to drive me nuts because I have my computer right there, and I know it's on today's emails on a complete update. But yeah, they're very conscious about it. They have air monitoring equipment all over the place. They have it even on the site. We did have somebody voice their concerns. We looked into it, looked back at the air monitoring samples, and nothing was going anywhere close the hazard limit.
They're really good. We're right out there in the middle of it, and they're very good to work with if there's any issues we have, or if we need something from them to help. We pull an airplane out or tow it in or out, they just sort of stop everything for a minute or two while we're going around, and it couldn't, it's disruptive what's going on, but it couldn't be any better from what they're trying to help us achieve and what they're working on. I have really no complaints. I'm so glad it's getting done. So-
Councilman Savage,
Yes.
before you leave, we talked at the meeting
Yeah,
to-
on the 27th.
on the 27th. What time did you want to do that? On the 27th?
Sir, if you want to, I think it may be best to getting in a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, that's what I said too, but he's pretty committed till then.
Yeah, I have 3 jobs, so, of course, it's very important. Typically, the last week of the months, where I really have free time to go and do these things, that's why I was planning on the 27th. If March 7th works.
We'll make it work.
I currently have nothing on my calendar for that day.
We can make it work.
what day's March 7th on?
It's a Thursday.
Yeah, well, we'll figure out a way. We'll definitely figure out a
For
way.
him to get a
Let
tour.
me know, I would say around lunchtime.
Okay, noon?
Fine with
Okay.
me.
Okay.
March 7th.
That Thursday.
And we'll meet at administration. Okay? Thank you.
Terminal renovations, moving on, sorry. Any other questions about the draw site? Terminal renovations, as Curtis already left, as Curtis stated, we did complete the landscaping out back. We are still eyeing replacing the windows inside the terminal building, make them a little bit better for suiting our hot environment, or the heat coming, the sun radiation through the windows. Spoke to our facilities. They are getting estimates right now for replacing the terminal windows to be a little bit, to, how can we say, enhance the environment inside of the terminal building. Runway 1735 and taxiway Charlie P608 application. I know that this work has ended for quite some time. What ended up happening with that restoration or that seal coat going over the runway and crack sealing, that one of the truck drivers struck the gate at BLM and damaged it to the point where it was no longer functioning. So what we ended up doing was working with the main contractors and working with ADOT, since this is an ADOT project, and ADOT held on to their funds until we said we are happy with the gate.
Are we now happy with the gate?
The gate seems to be functioning. We even got a 1-year warranty on it,
Good.
should something else happen. But now that gate is up and running and is operating as it should be. Water master drainage study with the industrial park master development plan, since they're running their models for the drainage inside of the future expansion, that model is being shared with our current engineers, because that model impacts what happens onto the airfield. So our engineers are in constant conversations with that group, J.E. Fuller, and getting that information to update it. I've asked them, they said we'll be done hopefully before early this summer with that drainage study for the airport. Taxiway D rehab design. Last month we received the 30% plans. We reviewed through the 30% plans of that project. We made some little corrections in there. They're looking at and they're moving that forward with completing the design phase for Taxiway Delta rehab and realignment of some of the taxiways. Hangar doors. Now this kind of goes into when you see our hangar wait list. We had 3 hangars located on row C where the doors were not properly closing all the time. Sometimes they would not open. Sometimes they'll go about halfway down. They're chattering. So we had one of our tenants there kind of being a little bit of a guinea pig. We moved them into another hangar temporarily, and we're asking them, hey, because our staff was running tests on it continuously, but we're asking him to, hey, if you don't mind, when you go out there to fly your aircraft, just see if you could open the door, see if you have any issues, and he was providing that information. Well, we finally narrowed it down to some limit switches, and we replaced limit switch, and what appears to be that we resolved his hangar doors, and we're going to go to the 2 other hangars and resolve their problem. We haven't moved anybody into those hangars at this time because we were fearing that if we had somebody put their aircraft in there and they're unable to get it out, it kind of defeats the purpose of a hangar. So now, since we finally narrowed that down, we're going to be reaching out to people on the wait list to fill up those last 3 hangars. We also have on the C row 1 more hangar that we have to replace weather stripping. We're going to get that done before the end of this month. For the north drainage ditch repair, north of the airport, where that drainage ditch that runs along the ramp and goes underneath the airport admin building and goes all the way to the north. Last year when we had that heavy rain that really negatively impacted down airway, also impacted us. It eroded that ditch and the fence to where the fence came down. So staff put up a temporary fence, wildlife protection fence, and we hired a company with the lowest bid. Actually, they're the only ones who bid on the project. They came in, they straightened up the ditch, fixed the ditch, put in some riprap, and now we're going to go out for the second phase, which is actually installing a new, more proper fence in that area. For runway closure boxes, we did apologize for a little bit delay on that. We did have an RFP up there, and we were looking at the RFP. We're like, there's something wrong here. It's not right. So we reached out to our airport fleet department, or the city fleet department, because we do know they're purchased equipment before, and they're going to provide us an RFP to where we could just plug it in. We're waiting to get that in and get those runway closure boxes.
These are mobile ones on like a trailer thing that you put out?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Do we know how much those are going to cost?
We're estimating around 60 to 65,000 for
60 to 65,000
for 2.
for 2.
That includes shipping and handling.
I would think you could build them for less than that.
Well, you know how FAA is with all their nice
Yeah.
little specifications. Weed control, this is something that we really want to get out to our tenants. We're coming into that time of year where we're going to have a lot of weeds growing up and springing up around the airport. This is a request from my staff to say, hey, if you can't get this out there, they are going to start swinging in to the routine of spraying weeds here in the next month or so, along the airport ramps and so forth. So just please be mindful of their vehicles as they're traveling out there.
You skipped wildlife.
Oh, wildlife. Yeah, wildlife hazardous management plan. Staff draft up a wildlife hazardous management plan. I know you guys mentioned about this last meeting. It's now in my hands for review to take a look at and make any adjustments as need be. FAA land release process. What one part is the Rancho Santa Fe. They expressed that they don't want to start up another land release process till they get done with Rancho Santa Fe. As you heard, we have a meeting coming up to go down and speak with the FAA along with congressional members. Also, with that being said, we even requested a draft report for the Industrial Park Master Development Plan for our consultants, so we could at least provide that to the FAA and say, hey, do you think we're in a position to start moving forward with this should everything come out positive for this meeting down there? We want to be on the ready to go and move this forward as soon as possible. Rancho Santa Fe environmental assessment. Well, technically the environmental assessment is done. The final phase, which is reviewing the perpetual use easement. They had a meeting last week. We have not heard back to see if they're late last week, I want to say Thursday, with their airport compliance division to make sure the easement is good for the other half or the other quarter of the FAA. And if everything looks good, then they're going to start moving forward with the final publication on the notice of proposed rulemaking, which goes into the federal, or not notice of proposed rulemaking, but the notification of the land use change from aeronautical to non-aeronautical to be used for a road. That will have to be published for 30 days on the Federal Register. So that is in FAA's hands. Hangar occupancy and wait list. For the executive hangars, we have 5 occupied, 7 on the wait list. B and C hangars, those 3 that are currently not available, we're going to start reaching out to 3 individuals and reduce that wait list down from 11 to 8. For the D hangars, we have 2 on the wait list. We did reach out to 1 individual. He requested for next week before he gives a response if he wants that hangar. If he doesn't want that, then we know somebody who will want that hangar temporary for their maintenance of one of their aircraft. Cover tie downs, 10 occupied, 0 on the wait list at this time.
Question, who is in space 6?
Space, are you talking about the one directly across from you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have never haven't had an
We made
airplane.
a phone call and we verified the aircraft is at Arizona being repaired.
It's at Arizona being repaired
Yes, sir.
since 2022?
Well, we followed up with that. We went over there and verified it. We actually had to call up the individual's son who is handling it for the guy. The guy's apparently traveling a lot throughout the world, and he comes back every now and then, and he wants to fly his
Look,
aircraft.
Okay, I'm just amused that it's been sitting there empty for about 2 years. And
We did do a follow-up
okay,
last month.
thank you.
I have a question. I know we keep revisiting this, but we've got executive hangars with 7 on the wait list. We ever going to look into building anything, the city, and then, because we can get money back, you know?
Well, what we're kind of waiting to see is also with what this development's going to do.
Which is still a ways down the road if they put shovels in the ground, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
they'll be able to move a little bit quicker, and because if this does work out, this could address a lot of those issues, because
Okay.
they'll be building multiple hangars, and when you build in bulk like that, you get a much cheaper rate.
That's true. if it's
You
a
get a much cheaper
bigger
rate.
building with multiple airplanes in it as opposed to individuals, but, you know.
Would they be doing any T hangars or smaller, like even the executive hangars that we have? Or is everything gonna be, huge?
They have, how can we say, they have said they're open to it. But they, as we said, is when we get to the RFP phase, that's where we're really gonna push forward. We have expressed possible need for additional box hangers for executives. And they said we'll visit that when we come. I think what they're really trying to do is target these larger developments first. And then if these guys do function good enough and they do see the market as being what it is, I would not be surprised if they turn around and say, okay, we want additional land to build a little bit additional private hangars. That's where we kind of see where this may end up going. If this does take up too much longer with this additional revenue, then this could be something there where we just turn around and say, okay, let's start tagging some of this. Let's at least get 3 additional new large hangars, box hangers, and let's look at possibly an extension of additional T hangars. It may not be as far out as many as we desire because we still want to keep them full with a minor wait list in there. Because this wait list still has around 3-4 people that do not have aircraft at this time. They're stating that they're going to be procuring aircraft, but they've been stating that for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
So whenever we give them a call and say we have a hangar open, they say we don't have an aircraft at this time. Well, we ask, when do you plan to own one? Because we want to be reasonable. If you're going to get one within a month, then we'll be willing to work with you. But in this case, that has not occurred. Except for one who we moved him into a hangar last week, and he got his aircraft also. It's a beautiful diamond. For the budget, we've only had the budget information through January 31st, 2024. Total revenue, $1,220,000, $1,220,333, with expenditure of $1,197,344. I know right now a lot of people are sent back saying the expenditures are very much keeping up. Keep in mind that this year we are paying for additional items to address the draw site. So a lot of that funding is going to come out of the actual draw site project.
So we'll get it back.
Well, it's going to be coming out of the draw site funds.
Good.
Not coming out of our standard funds. Revenue, we've had over $1,111,000 that the airport has generated, with the industrial park $109,000. Total expenditure for the airport out of our budget, we're really on track. We're expecting around 60%, being a little bit over halfway the year. We went through 58% of our budget for the airport at spending over $1,119,000. For the industrial park, we went through $77,492 for the industrial park operations and maintenance budget. Now, this has been requested for a while, and I kept forgetting to put it up here, but we actually have it. This is the actual airport, what was remaining inside of our bank. And best way to put it, towards the end of last fiscal year, we've had in our unrestricted estimate fund balance, that's the funds that come from our leases, that come from our agreements. We've had $2,785,000 in there. For the land sale balance, we still have $1,668,000 in there. And then for a total of $4,453,327.
And the land, we've sold some land since the city got it back, and that has to be used within 5 years.
So
where do we stand on that?
We're using those funds for not only some of these projects, maintenance projects on the airport, the drainage ditch, the improvement of the landscaping, not only meeting, but also our grant shares.
Our grant obligations?
Yeah, our grant obligations. But we're also using it for some of the maintenance And I had a discussion with finance saying it may be best for us to start moving some of those funds and using it for the actual operations and maintenance, because you can only keep it for so long, whereas the others, we could keep it a little bit further out. Because one discussion that has popped up with this possible development, everybody's throwing out theoretical areas, is what do we need to do if we have to build an additional taxiway? How much additional funds that's going to take. So we're trying to save up some funds. If we could turn around, we say, okay, FAA, we need an additional taxiway in this location. Here's how much we're estimating costs. Here will be our share. Here will be ADOT share, and you'll have to pick up the remaining. Yes, sir. One thing we're going to do is push for some of those roads. Is for the roadside, we're definitely going to be pushing for them to do it, for actually making those improvements.
The developer, you're saying?
The developer,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, for the actual taxiways, that's going to be an area that's going to be heavily negotiated. If I can, I'll have them do it all the way, but we'll have to find out and see.
Is there any possibility we could take, say, 400,000 and either build more shade or build some additional hangars? How much would hangars cost?
I do not have that estimate right now.
Okay, at one time, I heard numbers batted around in the neighborhood of $1 million for a hangar, and I think that's awfully high.
At one point, it was sitting at around $91 per square foot of construction. Now, several years have passed, and we are possibly in the next couple of years of reopening that. I do know some other airports have reached out, and they came back with insanely high prices also. And it's kind of making everybody a little bit squeamish at this time.
That was during the peak of terrible high prices for a lot of stuff, wasn't it, when everything was just going nuts?
Yes, yet at the same time, some other airports have set back, and they've used some of our information recently, and they're coming back with the exact same amount. That is still a little bit too high. It has not left us. At the same time, we're also, one idea is that we're looking at using these funds possibly in the future to addressing the dump site north of the airfield. Because that 64 acres, that is currently undevelopable at this time. And we received estimates for just the first part of the exploratory phase. That includes surveying the actual section, doing some test digging, doing some air monitoring sampling, and that was coming out over $1 million.
So is this stuff that's going to happen sooner than later? Because if prices keep, I mean, obviously prices are always going to go up. I mean, the Fed targets 2%, but they're looking at 3% year over year right now. So is that like, what's the, when you say in the future, like how far in the future? Because we don't want to run out of the money or have it expire before something gets going and or prices go up and it becomes more than what we have available.
Well, with the actual construction of new hangars, it's really kind of a little bit of a balance. One area is that, how could I put this? Well, one area that's actually influencing the cost is getting that amount of material in those specific items. There's still a massive delay in some of those items. We're experiencing that just by purchasing some of the motors for the actual hangars. On the other hand is actually demand. Yeah, it does look like we have a lot on the wait list, 11, but if you notice, it often dips down, then goes back up, and at one point we did have some open spots inside the T hangars that was not being filled. Even though we had a wait list, a lot of those people didn't have aircraft.
I guess my question was more geared towards the dump site.
Oh, the dump site. Well, one area that we're looking at was one is with the dump site, we did receive estimates. This is a lot. We received the estimates this, I want to say, late fall, early winter, when we received those estimates. This is a lot, so we're also working with ADEQ to see if there's some type of grants we could go out there. One problem is Brownsfield grants. Right now, they only pick up around $250,000 for the actual discovery and engineering phase, and an additional $250,000 for the actual construction phase. The construction phase is going to be the most expensive part. So we reached out to them, and one of them, we're going to be working with some member of DEQ to find that there's a way to where we could possibly earmark a lot more funds to overall address that problem. One of the things is that everybody thinks that was created during the military. It was not. Right now, everything is pointing to after the military left was when that dump site was created.
And what was actually dumped there, do we know?
Well, I found perfume bottles, some older military stuff, some appears to be personal effects. We do know that some of that dirt that's on the top was originally the dirt around underground storage tanks. When they removed that dirt, they put it on the top to let it aerate naturally. How can we say clean itself?
This is not an agendized item, but I know we were talking about making improvements to a couple of the gate approaches with asphalt or concrete, or redoing some of those, couple of those surfaces. I don't remember the gate numbers, one near the EAA hangar, I think, and then the other one that's kind of a narrower gate that goes up a hill. I don't know what number it is. Sorry.
Yeah, that one, we do have them targeted. After when we start getting a little bit closer to the draw site, one of our asphalt companies that will be coming out, we told them we would like to meet with them.
Okay.
When they come out to start looking and planning for the next phase of the draw site paving. And we want to say, here's what we want to start doing, start putting this information together and target at least these two spots.
And that was the, again, the narrow one that's near where the executive hangars are, I guess, and then the one near EAA
One
hangar.
is the EAA spot, and the other one is near the T hangars in the executive
T hangars, yeah, okay.
So I have a question. It's unrelated. It's kind of related to the whole spending money thing, but your guys' network connections that are out there, are you guys getting those upgraded soon, or do you need money? Like, could this be used to upgrade those connections to the buildings so you're not using those dishes back and forth that are restricted by the wind speeds?
I think I've mentioned that last Thursday to our IT department, saying that can we get some type of solid connection out there?
The reason I bring that up is because Allo has their map that has the airport industrial park as live and ready for install for fiber optic cable. So I didn't know if this might potentially, the money that's left in there from the balances, be used to facilitate that upgrade or that connection.
I will say this, I did mention our IT department. They kind of alluded that they'll look into it. And at the time in the past when I spoke to Allo, they said that they would run the infrastructure to the building for free. But there is another site behind it that our IT department information technology works on, and that is the actual contracts regarding internet service. They do have something with Allo, so I'm kind of hoping by feeding that to them, say, let's get something, because even from my office, that every now and then when I speak over my desk phone, it blanks out, especially during windy situations and when you're trying to get information across. It's not exactly the most pleasant way when somebody thinks they heard something, they have a gap, and they automatically fill it in. And the next thing you know, you get an email stating that, hey, here's your 20 pounds worth of butterscotch candy.
Well,
You're not asking for that.
So you're saying that the reason it hasn't necessarily gone to Allo yet is because the city has a contract with another entity that has to keep it?
I think they have a contract with Allo, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know what extent.
Yeah, because we have Allo at our facility now. It's fast and clear and.
Well, and that's part of what I was wondering too, is if some of that money or could be for the initial setup, and then whatever usually would be taken out of, the regular expenses. Because I know, like, for example, taking where I work, it was going to cost roughly $22,000 for them to install a new line from the street to the building, and it's not even barely 100 feet from the existing infrastructure. So that to me seemed kind of steep. There's a few other buildings I know of in a couple other locations that had a similar issue. So I didn't know if that was something that the city had or if the IT department was looking at for your guys' building. But I know Allo has said that they will build up to the DMARC. The DMARC for a building is usually like the network room or the telephone. There's like a little box outside of the building where all that stuff comes into. And then the IT would be responsible for everything else. So I was just kind of curious, like, how come if the object was money, if that would be coming out of your guys' budget or coming out of that land sale balance?
It would come out of our budget. For something like that, we could use our land sales, but I may push that over towards the revenue side just because it could be considered a gray area. It could be considered a gray area. But I did propose that to IT, as I want to say Thursday, saying, is there any possible way that we could get this to our building? Or even WECOM. WECOM has made new installations in the area, and a lot of those power lines go right past the building. Because I would like to have video conference without it blowing out during windy weather, or the few times it's completely blown over.
Yeah, we
Well,
signed
there's also
some kind of contract, and they came, into our building, and that there was no big fee to make that happen. So, and they hooked it all up, and so I don't know if there's a difference the way the city has to work it or whatever, but we just pay a normal monthly internet and phone Wi-Fi number.
That right there goes to our IT department.
Okay.
When it comes to those types of payments, we have no control over that. That is the IT department.
Okay.
When they put that information together. And I hope IT's listening now. But we did have a conversation on Thursday about that. We did. For the airport fuel reports, so far this year, you know what, let me zoom in a little bit. So far this year, we've managed to sell 181,000 gallons. And as you notice, that's tracking much higher than it was last year. So we are still tracking up on the amount of fuel sales. That is very much a positive thing. We're enjoying that. FBO is very, very busy, and they've hired some additional staff members, including one individual that is designed for targeting and working these large-scale events.
And I know it doesn't include the Super Bowl, which is a half dud from what we expected, but it doesn't include February either when they were getting fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It takes a little while for the stuff to get processed.
Yep.
But does anybody have any other questions?
Okay, then we'll move on to announcements by commissioners. We'll start at this end this time. Commissioner Larimore, anything to report?
I would just like to thank you, Doug, for the tour that you gave us. It's very informative. Answered a lot of questions I had and a few concerns. So thank you.
Welcome.
Negative, nothing for me.
I just want to announce that cancer sucks. And I hope that someday soon we find a way to eliminate it, because it is a horrible, horrible disease.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, again, I just want to say cancer sucks. Sorry, that's all I got.
Just wanted to say thank you for the tour for the draw site. That was very informative. The landscaping, I was out there when the wife and I were out there eating breakfast when they were putting it in, and it looked awesome. So that's it for me.
I had an opportunity to go to the Buckeye Air Fair a couple weeks ago, and they put on quite a show. we had A-10s and F-35s, and then we had a night show where they lit up. One airplane had a whole bunch of red, white, and blue lights on it. Then they had skydivers that were also lit up at night. It'd be nice if we could do something like that someday.
This is not the Copper State thing. This is something,
Well, it was at Buckeye,
but not
which
Copper
is-
State event.
but it
yeah.
wasn't called Copper State.
Okay.
The EAA chapter is going to be doing a Young Eagles rally on April 20th. We're hoping that you can fly children on the 20th. And other than that, that's about all I've got as well. Tim, do you have something? I didn't mean to forget you there.
No, that's okay. I don't have anything else to add, but thank you.
Okay, that concludes our agenda. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
We moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We're closed.